The blood splatter on my daughter's cream-colored dress was the first thing I noticed. Not the screaming, not the gunshot still echoing through Vincenzo's, bouncing off marble columns and crystal chandeliers, not even the body slumped 3 tables away, expensive suit soaking up Barolo like a sponge. Just that crimson arc across Mira's shoulder, delicate as embroidery. "Mama?" Her voice was small. 5 years old, and she'd just watched a man die during our celebration dinner. I pulled her face against my chest, one hand covering her eyes, the other searching frantically for my purse, my phone, any fucking thing that would get us out of here. The restaurant had gone silent after the initial chaos, that terrible, waiting silence where everyone knows more violence is coming. Nobody moves. The voice cut through the quiet like a blade through silk. Low, controlled, absolutely certain. I looked up. He stood near the entrance, framed by the doorway like something out of a nightmare, dressed in a 3-piece suit, tall enough to block out the streetlights behind him, dark hair swept back from a face that was all sharp angles and darker intent, and his eyes, Christ, his eyes swept the room like he was taking inventory of who would live and who wouldn't. They landed on me. Everything stopped. My breath, my heartbeat. Time itself seemed to pause under that gaze. Then his focus shifted to Mira, pressed against me, trembling. Something flickered across his face. Too fast to read, too dangerous to trust. "Everyone will place their phones on their tables," he continued, moving into the restaurant with the casual confidence of someone who owned not just the room but everyone in it. Slowly. No sudden movements unless you're eager to join Castellano on the floor. 6 men materialized from various corners, his men, I realized. They'd been here all along, watching, waiting. This had been planned. My phone was already on the table. I didn't move toward it. "Good girl," someone muttered nearby. I wanted to spit at him. The man in charge, because he was clearly in charge, approached each table methodically, checking faces, looking for something, or someone. Mira whimpered against my chest. "Shh, baby," I whispered. "Keep your eyes closed. Count in your head like we practiced. Remember? 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi," she breathed, so quiet I barely heard it. The man stopped at our table. I forced myself to look up, meeting those dark eyes straight on. Fear pooled cold in my stomach, but I'd learned young that predators could smell submission, and this man, whoever he was the apex of something ancient and brutal. "Names," he said simply. "Elena Winters. This is my daughter, Mira." His gaze flicked to Mira, still pressed against me, then back to my face. He studied me for a long moment. I watched his jaw tighten almost imperceptibly. "You're not from here." It wasn't a question, but I answered anyway. "We moved from Chicago 6 months ago." "Chicago." He repeated the word like he was tasting it, finding it bitter. "Long way from home. This is home now." Something almost like amusement touched his mouth. "Almost." "Is it?" Behind him, one of his men approached. "Sir, we've cleared." "I can see that, Marco." He didn't turn around, didn't take his eyes off me. "Miss Winters, I'm going to need you and your daughter to come with me." Every instinct I had screamed danger. "I don't think so." His head tilted slightly, like I'd surprised him. "That wasn't a request, and that wasn't an answer that makes me want to follow you anywhere." I kept my voice steady even as my heart hammered. "We're leaving, now." I started to stand. Mira clutched against me. His hand shot out, not touching me, but close enough that I felt the heat of it blocking my path. "The men who sent Castellano to kill me know you're here. They saw you witness his death. Do you understand what that means?" Ice flooded my veins. "I didn't see anything. You saw everything." His voice dropped lower, intimate in its menace. "And now you're a liability they'll erase. You and your daughter both. Is that what you want? To walk out that door and find out how many seconds you last? Why should I trust you over them? Because I'm the one being honest about the danger you're in." Mira shifted in my arms. I felt her small hand grip my shirt tighter. God, I'd brought her here to celebrate her first week at kindergarten. She'd been so proud of her new school, her new friends, and now, "How long?" I asked. "Excuse me? How long do we need to come with you?" He considered this. Behind him, Marco shifted impatiently, but a single look from his boss stilled him. "Until I decide you're not useful to them anymore." "That's not an answer. It's the only one I have." He lowered his hand slowly, deliberately. "My name is Dante Moretti. If you've been in this city 6 months, you've heard the name." I had. Everyone had. The Morettis owned half the waterfront. most of the construction contracts, and according to whispered rumors, the police commissioner himself. You're the... Yes. He cut me off before I could say it. Mafia, boss, monster. I'm exactly what you're thinking, which is why you know I don't make empty threats. Those men will come for you. Tonight, maybe sooner. Come with me, and I'll keep you alive. And if I refuse, his eyes hardened, then you're choosing to die in front of your daughter instead of behind my protection. I don't care which you prefer, but decide quickly. We've been here too long already. Mira's breathing had evened out against my chest. She was counting, still counting Mississippis in her head, trying to be brave. I thought of Chicago, of the last man who'd promised protection, of how that had ended with me fleeing in the night. Mira wrapped in a blanket, everything we owned in 2 suitcases. I thought of the blood on her dress. I thought of this stranger's eyes, and how they'd softened just for a fraction of a second when they'd landed on my daughter. 3 hours, I said. I'll give you 3 hours to convince me this isn't a worse mistake. Dante Moretti's mouth curved into something that might have been a smile on a different face. On his, it looked like a promise. 3 hours, he agreed. Then we renegotiate. He stepped back, gesturing toward the exit. His men had already cleared a path, removing phones, herding the other diners toward the back. I noticed they moved with military precision. Nothing random, nothing left to chance. I stood, adjusting Mira in my arms. She'd gotten too big for me to carry comfortably, all long limbs and growing bones. But I wouldn't put her down. Not here, not with that body still cooling on the floor. As we passed Castellano, I couldn't help but look. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe 30. Wedding ring catching the light. Don't, Dante said quietly beside me. Don't humanize them. It doesn't help. Did he have children? Yes. No hesitation. No remorse. 3. They'll be provided for. I stopped walking, looked at him directly. By you? By the organization. We take care of our own, even in death. But you killed him. He knew the cost of betrayal when he made his choice. Dante's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in those dark eyes. This world has rules, Miss Winters. Break them, and the consequences are absolute. That's how we survive. Sounds like a nightmare. It is. He held the door open for me. But it's an honest one. Outside, 3 black SUVs waited, engines running. The street had been cleared somehow, no pedestrians, no traffic. Just empty pavement glistening with recent rain and the distant sound of sirens that would arrive exactly too late. Dante opened the rear door of the middle vehicle. Leather interior, child seat already installed. I stared at it. How? I pay attention. He nodded toward the seat. For Mira, she'll be safer strapped in. My hands shook as I buckled her in. She'd finally opened her eyes, looking around with that terrible two-eyes expression children get when they've seen something that steals their innocence. Mama, is that man going to hurt us? Before I could answer, Dante crouched down beside the open door, putting himself at her eye level. His voice, when he spoke, transformed into something gentle, careful. No, Piccola, I'm going to keep you safe. That's a promise. Mira studied him with her serious brown eyes. Then, inexplicably, impossibly, she smiled. Okay, Papa. The world stopped. Everyone in earshot, Dante's men, me, even the drivers went absolutely silent. Dante's expression cracked. Just for a heartbeat. Just long enough for me to see something raw and wounded flash across his face before the mask slammed back into place. I'm not, he started, but Mira had already closed her eyes, exhausted, trusting, calling a mafia boss the one word that could destroy us both. The safe house was a brownstone in the old district, tucked between a closed bookstore and what looked like an abandoned law office. Nondescript, forgettable, exactly the kind of place someone would use to hide bodies or witnesses. I couldn't tell which category we fell into. Dante had been silent the entire drive, staring out the window like he could burn holes through the glass with pure concentration. Every time I glanced at him, I caught his reflection watching me back. Not threatening. Not exactly. More like he was working through some complicated equation, and I was the variable that didn't fit. Mira had fallen asleep against my shoulder, dead weight, in that boneless way children have. The blood on her dress had dried to rust brown. I'd need to soak it. Throw it away. Burn it. God, what had I done? We're here, Marco announced from the driver's seat. The building had 6 steps leading to a red door with an iron grate. Dante exited first, scanned the street with the casual paranoia of someone who expected assassination at any moment, then nodded for me to follow. Inside smelled like lemon polish and something else. Gunpowder, maybe, or just my imagination overlaying every sensory detail with violence. Upstairs, Dante said, his voice low enough not to wake Mira. Second floor. The room on the left has a bed suitable for her. I climbed the narrow stairs, hyper-aware of him behind me, close enough that I felt his presence like heat against my spine. The floorboards didn't creak under his weight. He moved like a ghost. The room was small but clean. A double bed with a metal frame, white sheets, a single window overlooking the alley. A nightlight shaped like a crescent moon, already glowed in the outlet. "You keep child-appropriate safe houses?" I asked, lowering Mira onto the bed. "I keep prepared safe houses." Dante remained in the doorway, giving me space. Children aren't unusual in this line of work. Sometimes they need protection too. I removed Mira's shoes, tucked the blanket around her small form. She stirred, but didn't wake. Exhaustion had claimed her completely. When I turned back, Dante was watching us with an expression I couldn't read. Something complicated moved behind his eyes. "She called you Papa," I said quietly. "Children make mistakes." "Do they?" I moved toward the door, forcing him to step back into the hallway. "Or do they sense things adults rationalize away?" "What are you implying, Miss Winters?" "Elena, if we're hiding together, you might as well use my name." I pulled the door mostly closed, leaving it cracked so I could hear if Mira woke. "And I'm not implying anything. I'm asking why a 5-year-old would look at you and see safety. Maybe because I'm currently the safest option she has. Or maybe she recognized something in you." I crossed my arms, suddenly aware of how close we were standing in the narrow hallway. "Something familiar." Dante's jaw tightened. "You don't know anything about me. I know you installed a car seat before we even left. I know you put a nightlight in that room. I know you're careful with her in a way that doesn't match the man who shot someone in a crowded restaurant." I held his gaze. "So either you're playing some long game I don't understand, or there's more to you than the monster reputation suggests. Don't confuse calculation for compassion." "I'm not confused. I'm curious." Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. He stepped closer, not threatening, but intentional. "Testing boundaries. Curiosity in this world gets people killed, Elena." My name in his mouth sounded like a warning and a promise tangled together. "Everything gets people killed in your world, apparently." I didn't back away. Wouldn't give him the satisfaction. "I just watched that firsthand. And yet you got in the car, because you were right. About the danger, about having no other options." I paused. "For now." "For now," he echoed. The corner of his mouth twitched. 3 hours. You said I had 3 hours. I checked my watch. 1 hour and 47 minutes remaining. Then let's not waste them. He turned and headed down the hallway toward what looked like a living area. "You'll want to hear exactly what you're caught up in, and why your daughter's mistake might have just complicated both our lives considerably." The living room continued the sparse aesthetic leather couch, coffee table, walls bare, except for a single painting of the harbor at dawn, windows covered with heavy curtains, everything positioned so the doorways remained visible from any seat. Dante poured 2 glasses of something amber from a crystal decanter, offered me one. "I don't drink with strangers who threaten me." "I haven't threatened you. I've stated facts." He took a sip from one glass, then pointedly set the other on the table between us. "But if you're worried about poison, I can assure you it would be much messier than this." I picked up the glass. Whiskey, smooth and expensive. It burned going down. "Castellano worked for the Vitali family," Dante began, settling into the armchair across from me. "They've been trying to expand into my territory for 6 months. Tonight was their 3rd attempt on my life." "3rd? I'm harder to kill than they anticipated." He said it without arrogance. "Just fact. You were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Story of my life." "2 process." His eyes sharpened with interest. "Is it?" I shouldn't have said that. Shouldn't have opened that door. "Why does the Vitali family want you dead?" "Because I'm in their way. Because this city isn't big enough for both our operations. Because Marco Vitali's youngest son gambled away $3 million at one of my casinos, and Marco blames me for not protecting him from his own stupidity." Dante swirled his whiskey, watching the liquid catch the light. "Take your pick. You're very matter-of-fact about people trying to murder you. It happens more than you'd think. That's not comforting. It wasn't meant to be." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Here's what you need to understand. The Vitales know you saw Castellano die. They know you're a potential witness if any law enforcement gets ambitious enough to actually investigate. Which means they need you silent. But you said you killed him. Why would I? Because you can place me at the scene. Because you can testify I gave the order. His voice remained level. In their minds, you're leverage or liability. Either way, you don't survive long without protection. The whiskey turned sour in my stomach. And your protection comes with what price? Smart question. Dante set his glass down. For now? Nothing. You stay here, you keep your daughter safe, and you don't cause problems. In return, I keep the Vitales from putting bullets in both of you. For now. You keep saying that, because situations change. Today you're a witness. Tomorrow you might be useful in other ways. He held my gaze. Or you might become a problem I need to solve permanently. You'd kill a woman and her child? I'd kill anyone who endangers my family or my operations. No hesitation, no apology. But I don't make a habit of harming civilians unless they force my hand. And children. His expression shifted, something raw flickering through. Children are off limits. Always. Why? Because some lines, once crossed, you can't come back from. He stood abruptly, moving to the window, pulling the curtain aside just enough to check the street. And I've crossed enough already. The vulnerability in that statement shocked me. This man, this dangerous, controlled man who'd orchestrated a murder in public, carried guilt. Real, tangible guilt. How old? I asked softly. He didn't turn around. What? Your child. The one you lost. How old? The silence stretched so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, 7. She would have been 7. Would have been. Past tense. Final. I'm sorry, I said, and meant it. Don't be. It was my fault. He dropped the curtain, turned back to me. His face had reset into that neutral mask, but I'd seen behind it now. Couldn't unsee it. I brought that world into her life and it killed her. That's the truth of what I am, Elena. Everything I touch turns to ash eventually. Then why help us? Because Mira's smile reminded me of her. Because when your daughter called me Papa, something in my chest cracked open that I've kept locked for 3 years. He moved closer, and I saw the rawness in his eyes now, undisguised. And because, maybe, just maybe, I can keep one child safe, even if I failed my own. The confession hung between us like broken glass. Dante. Your 3 hours are up, he said abruptly, the professional mask slamming back into place. Decision time. Stay under my protection, and accept everything that comes with it, or leave now, and take your chances with the Vitales. I thought of Mira asleep upstairs. Thought of the blood on her dress. Thought of this broken, dangerous man who kept nightlights in safe houses and child seats in getaway cars. We'll stay, I said. But I want to renegotiate terms. His eyebrow rose. You're not in a position to negotiate, aren't I? I stood, meeting him eye to eye. You just admitted I'm leveraging your guilt. That gives me more power than you want to acknowledge. For the first time since I'd met him, Dante Moretti smiled. Really smiled. You're either very brave or very stupid, Elena Winters. I'm a single mother who moved to a new city, with nothing but hope and desperation. I held his gaze. I'm both. I woke to the sound of voices downstairs. The bedroom was dark except for the moon-shaped nightlight, casting everything in soft blue shadows. Mira slept beside me, curled into a ball, one small hand gripping my shirt like an anchor. I'd changed her into one of the clean pajamas someone had left folded on the dresser, another thoughtful detail that didn't match the violence I'd witnessed. The voices rose slightly. Not arguing, discussing. I caught fragments. Can't stay here indefinitely. Vitales have people everywhere. The child complicates. I carefully extracted myself from Mira's grip and moved to the door. The hallway was empty, but light spilled up from the living room. I crept to the stairs, staying in the shadows. Dante sat at the dining table, shirt sleeves rolled to his elbows, tie discarded, papers spread before him. Marco stood nearby, arms crossed, looking concerned. You're getting attached, Marco said quietly. That's dangerous. I'm being practical. She's a witness. She's a woman with a child who called you Papa. Don't bullshit me, Dante. I've known you 20 years. Marco leaned against the wall. You haven't let anyone this close since. Don't. Dante's voice went cold. Don't say her name. Why? Because pretending Sophia never existed makes it hurt less? Marco shook his head. You can't save this little girl. You can't undo what happened. I'm not trying to undo anything. I'm trying to keep them alive. By doing what? Making them part of this life? You know where that leads. Dante stood abruptly, chair scraping against hardwood. What would you have me do? Throw them to the Vitalis? Let Mira. He stopped himself, jaw tight. They're under my protection now. That's final. For how long? A week? A month? Forever? Marco's voice softened. Dante, you can't keep every wounded bird that flies into your orbit. Eventually, you have to let them go, or admit what this really is. And what is it, Marco? Enlighten me. Penance. Marco pushed off the wall. You're trying to absolve yourself through them, but it doesn't work that way. No amount of protecting this woman and her daughter will bring Sophia back. The silence that followed felt like violence. Then Dante spoke, so quiet I almost missed it. I know. Believe me. I fucking know. He picked up one of the papers, stared at it without seeing, but maybe I can stop it from happening again. Maybe that's enough. It's never enough. Not for men like us. I must have made some sound of breath. A shift of weight because Dante's head snapped up, eyes finding me in the darkness of the stairwell with unnerving precision. How long have you been listening? No point lying. Long enough. Marco glanced between us, something knowing in his expression. I'll give you two a moment. He headed for the door, pausing to grip Dante's shoulder briefly. Just don't lose yourself in the saving, brother. Remember who you are. Then he was gone, and I was alone with a man who apparently saw me as penance. I descended the stairs slowly, acutely aware I was wearing borrowed sleep clothes, soft cotton pants, and a tank top that definitely belonged to someone else, someone smaller, given how they clung. Dante's eyes tracked my movement, but his expression remained unreadable. Sophia, I said softly. That was her name? You shouldn't eavesdrop. You shouldn't have loud conversations while people are trying to sleep. I moved to the table, looking at the papers spread across it. Blueprints, surveillance photos, names connected by red string on a corkboard behind him. What is all this? Insurance. He gathered the papers with quick, efficient movements. The more I understand about the Vitalis operations, the better I can protect. He stopped. The better I can manage the situation. You were going to say, protect us. Was I? You're a terrible liar for a Mafia boss. That almost smile touched his mouth again. Most people lie to me, not the other way around. I'm out of practice. I pulled out a chair, sat across from where he'd been working. The table felt like neutral territory, Switzerland in furniture form. Tell me about her, I said. Sophia. No. Why not? Because talking about her makes her real again. And when she's real, I remember what I lost. And when I remember what I lost, he braced his hands on the table, head dropping between his shoulders. I can't afford to be that broken right now. Not with the Vitalis circling. Everyone's broken, Dante. The only question is whether you hide it or weaponize it. His head lifted, eyes meeting mine. And what do you weaponize, Elena? The question landed like a punch. Survival instinct. Desperation. I paused. Stubbornness. I've noticed the last one. It's kept me alive this long. Chicago, he said abruptly. You ran from something there. Someone. Not a question. A statement. I should have known he'd dig into my background. My ex-husband. Mira's father. I kept my voice even. He had problems with control, and anger, and boundaries. Did he hurt her? The way he asked it so carefully controlled made me realize how tightly wound he was, like a spring compressed to its breaking point. No, just me. But I saw the pattern forming, saw how he looked at her when she cried, when she didn't obey fast enough. I wrapped my arms around myself. I left before it could progress, took Mira and everything I could carry, and disappeared in the middle of the night. Smart. Cowardly. Survival isn't cowardice. Dante moved around the table, closer to me. Not threatening. Something else. You protected your daughter. That takes strength most people don't have, says the man who orchestrated a public execution. Yes, says exactly that man. He crouched beside my chair, putting himself at eye level like he'd done with Mira. I know what I am, Elena. I don't pretend to be good. But I understand the difference between necessary violence and cruelty. Your ex was cruel. I'm simply efficient. That's a hell of a distinction. It's the only one that matters in this world. We were close enough now that I could see the exhaustion in his face, the fine lines around his eyes, a small scar cutting through his left eyebrow. He smelled like expensive cologne, and something underneath leather, Maybe. Smoke. How did she die? I asked quietly. Sophia. His jaw tightened. Car bomb. Meant for me. She was in the wrong vehicle at the wrong time because I was running late for her dance recital, and she borrowed my car. His voice went flat, mechanical. They found pieces of her ballet shoes in the debris, pink satin. She'd been so excited to show me her routine. Oh God, Dante, don't. He stood abruptly, putting distance between us. Don't comfort me. Don't make this into something it's not. I'm telling you so you understand exactly what being near me means. Death, destruction. Everyone close to me ends up collateral damage. Then why keep us here? Because you're already collateral. The Vitales made sure of that when Castellano died in front of you. He ran a hand through his hair, disrupting its careful styling. At least here, I control the variables. Out there, you're just waiting to die. That's not living. That's existing in a prettier cage. It's surviving. Sometimes that's all we get. I stood, moving toward him slowly. He tracked my approach like a wild animal, deciding whether to bolt or bite. My daughter called you Papa, I said softly. Not Daddy, not Mr. Papa. Do you know why that word? Children. Mira's father spoke Spanish. Papa was the first word she learned for father. She's never called anyone else that, not even him. Toward the end, I stopped a foot away from Dante. So I'm asking you, why did she choose that word for you? His throat worked. I don't know. Yes, you do. Some part of you knows. Elena, my name came out rough. This can't whatever you think is happening here. I don't think anything. I'm observing facts. I held his gaze. Fact. You've created a safe space for a child you just met. Fact. You've shown more care for our well-being in 12 hours than anyone has in years. Fact. When Mira called you Papa, something in you recognized it, wanted it. Wanting something doesn't make it possible. No, but it makes it worth fighting for. The air between us felt charged. Dangerous. Like standing too close to a power line during a storm. Dante reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away. His fingers brushed my cheek, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. The touch was gentle. Reverent. If I let myself want this, he said quietly, I'll destroy it. That's who I am. That's what I do. Or maybe, I whispered, you'll finally save something worth saving. His hand stilled against my face. For a heartbeat, I thought he might kiss me. Might close that final distance, and let whatever this was between us ignite. Instead, he stepped back. Get some sleep, Elena. Tomorrow we start planning your new life. What does that mean? It means the Vitales won't stop looking. Which means you can't be Elena Winters anymore. You need a new identity. New story. His expression hardened back into professional distance. Knew everything. And Mira? She'll be protected. Always. He moved toward the stairs leading to what I assumed was his own room. Paused on the bottom step. But Elena, don't mistake protection for salvation. I'm not that kind of man. What kind are you? He looked back, eyes dark and fathomless. The kind who fails everyone eventually. Remember that. Then he was gone, leaving me alone with the corkboard full of surveillance, and the ghost of his touch still warm against my skin. Morning came with the smell of coffee and something burning. I found Dante in the kitchen, staring at a smoking skillet like it had personally offended him. He wore different clothes, dark jeans, black Henley, and looked distinctly less threatening while wielding a spatula in defeat. I can cook, I offered. He glanced up, something almost sheepish crossing his face. I can kill a man 17 different ways, but apparently eggs are beyond me. A marketable skill set. I moved past him, assessing the damage. How do you normally eat? My housekeeper prepares meals. Or restaurants. He abandoned the spatula. Self-sufficiency was never the priority. Step aside. I'll make breakfast. He did, watching as I salvaged what I could and started fresh. The kitchen was small but well-equipped. Expensive appliances, copper pots hanging from a rack, knives that looked both professional and dangerous. Where's Mira? He asked. Still sleeping. She was exhausted. I cracked eggs into a bowl. She'll probably be up soon, though. She's an early riser normally. I'll need to arrange schooling. Can't have her falling behind. I paused mid-whisk. You're thinking long-term. I'm thinking practically. Children need routine, structure. He leaned against the counter. There's a private academy that caters to families in unique situations. They're discreet. Don't ask questions. Families in unique situations. You mean mob families. Among others, politicians' children, celebrities seeking privacy, people in witness protection. He picked up an apple from a fruit bowl, turned it in his hands. Sophia went there. It's safe. The casual mention of his daughter's name felt significant, like he was testing the weight of her memory in front of me. She'd have to use her new identity, I said carefully. Yes. Elena Moretti and her daughter Mira Moretti. I nearly dropped the bowl. Excuse me? It's the cleanest option. You're my distant cousin, recently widowed, relocating to be near family. Explains why you're under my protection. Gives you access to resources. Provides cover. You want us to pretend to be your family. I want you to be safe. This achieves that. He bit into the apple. Unless you have a better idea? I poured the eggs into the heated pan, buying time. This is insane. This is necessary. What happens when someone investigates? When they realize I'm not actually related to you? They won't. I'll create the documentation. Birth certificates, marriage license for your late husband, family photos. By the time I'm done, your history will be as real as mine. I flipped the eggs with more force than necessary. You can just do that? Rewrite someone's entire existence? I can do many things, Elena. Most of them morally questionable. He tossed the apple core in the trash. But effective. Mama? We both turned. Mira stood in the doorway, clutching the stuffed rabbit she'd somehow managed to grab during our evacuation. Her hair stuck up in wild directions and she wore the pajamas from last night. But her eyes were alert, taking everything in. Morning, baby. I plastered on a smile. Hungry? Uh-huh. She padded into the kitchen, stopped when she saw Dante, studied him seriously. You're the papa man. Dante's expression did something complicated. I'm Dante, just Dante. But I called you papa. She said it simply, like it was fact. Case closed. Mira, honey, I started. It's all right. Dante crouched down to her level. Again, that same careful, deliberate movement. You can call me whatever you'd like, Dante. Mr. Moretti. Papa. If that feels right to you, Papa. Mira decided immediately. Then, with the brutal honesty of 5-year-olds, my real papa was mean. You're not mean. I watched Dante's throat work. Watched him absorb that simple, devastating statement. No, he said quietly. I try not to be. Not to people I'm protecting. Are you protecting Mama too? Yes, both of you. Good, Mira nodded, satisfied. Mama needs protecting. She works really hard. I've noticed. Dante glanced up at me, something warm in his eyes that made my chest tight. She's very brave. The bravest, Mira declared. Then, attention span exhausted. Can I have pancakes? I'm making eggs, I started. I'll make pancakes, Dante interrupted. He stood, moving back to the counter. If you walk me through it. You can't make eggs, but you think you can handle pancakes? I'm a fast learner. What followed was domestic. Surprisingly, impossibly domestic. Dante following my instructions with the same focus he'd probably used planning operations. Mira sitting at the small kitchen table, swinging her legs, narrating a story about her stuffed rabbit's adventures, me supervising, correcting technique, trying not to think about how this felt like something dangerously close to normal. The key is not to overmix, I explained as Dante stirred the batter with unnecessary intensity. I'm mixing thoroughly. You're beating it into submission. It's pancakes, not enemies. His mouth twitched. I'm not familiar with the distinction. Mira giggled. Actual giggling. 24 hours after watching a man die, my daughter was giggling at a Mafia boss's terrible cooking skills. The absurdity should have broken me. Instead, it felt like breathing. The pancakes were edible. Barely. But Mira ate them with enthusiasm while Dante watched her like she might disappear if he blinked. We need to talk logistics, he said once Mira had retreated to the living room with her rabbit. Marco's arranging your documentation, but it will take time. 3 days minimum. And until then, you stay here. Don't leave without escort. Don't contact anyone from your previous life. He refilled his coffee. The Vitales have connections everywhere. One slip and they'll find you. What about my apartment? My job? Your landlord received notice you broke your lease. Family emergency. Your employer received your resignation. Medical leave for your daughter. He said it so matter-of-factly, like erasing my life was Tuesday business. You no longer exist as Elena Winters. Jesus, you work fast. When survival is the priority, speed matters. He leaned against the counter, arms crossed. I've also arranged for clothing, toiletries, whatever you need. Make a list. Marco will handle it. How generous. I'm assuming this comes with strings. Everything comes with strings, Elena. You know this. His eyes met mine. But these particular strings are simpler than you think. Stay alive. Keep Mira safe. Don't betray me to the Vitales or law enforcement. That's it? That's it. I studied him. This contradiction of a man. Ruthless and careful. Violent and gentle. What do you get out of this? Really? Peace. The word came out raw. For 3 years, I've been at war with myself. Sophia's death broke something fundamental. I stopped caring whether I lived or died. He set his coffee down. But Mira, when she called me Papa, something shifted. Like maybe there's still something worth protecting in this world beyond territory and power. That's a lot of weight to put on a 5-year-old. I'm not putting it on her. I'm recognizing what she woke up in me. He pushed off the counter, moving closer. You asked what kind of man I am. Here's the truth. I'm the kind who sees a chance at redemption and takes it, even knowing I'll probably fuck it up spectacularly. Self-awareness. How refreshing. I'm nothing if not honest about my flaws. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He checked it, expression hardening. What? I asked. The Vitales found your apartment, he typed rapidly, tore it apart looking for information. Your landlord called the police, but they were gone before anyone arrived. My stomach dropped. They know where I lived. Where you used to live. You're Elena Moretti now, remember? But his tone had shifted, more alert, dangerous. They're escalating faster than I expected. Marco. The man appeared in the doorway like he'd been summoned by thought alone. I heard. I'm moving up the identity documentation. Marco glanced at me. You'll need to memorize a complete background. Family history, education, employment. Everything. How much time do I have? 48 hours. He looked at Dante. And we need to move her. This location is compromised. Compromised how? My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. One of the Vitales street soldiers was spotted 2 blocks away. Marco's expression was grim. Could be coincidence. Could be reconnaissance. We don't take chances. Dante was already moving, that casual control snapping into something military precise. Pack whatever you brought. We leave in 20 minutes. What about Mira? She comes with us. Obviously. He paused at the doorway. Elena, breathe. This is what preparation looks like. We move, we adapt, we survive. You make it sound simple. It is simple. It's just not easy. He disappeared into the other room. I stood in the kitchen, this temporary kitchen, in this temporary safe house, in this temporary life, and realized with absolute clarity that nothing would ever be simple again. Mira appeared beside me, gripping her rabbit. Are we leaving? Yes, baby. Is it because of the bad men? I crouched down, pulled her close. It's because Papa wants to keep us extra safe. Can you be brave for Mama? She nodded against my shoulder. I'm always brave. I know you are, baby. I know. Over her head, I caught Dante watching from the doorway. His expression was complex, protective, and pained and determined all at once. This man who'd killed without hesitation was now rearranging his entire organization to protect us. This man who'd lost everything was somehow trying to save us from the same fate. This man who insisted he'd destroy whatever he touched was currently the only thing standing between my daughter and violence. I didn't know whether to trust him or fear him. Maybe both. Maybe that was the only honest option left. The new safe house was a penthouse. Not what I expected. I'd pictured another modest brownstone, maybe a suburban rental. Instead, Dante's driver deposited us at a steel and glass tower in the financial district, 37th floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the harbor. This is hiding? I asked as Marco keyed in the security code. This is hiding in plain sight. Dante carried our bags, the few items we'd accumulated, plus Mira's rabbit. The Vitales expect me to stash you somewhere dark and forgettable. So we go opposite. Luxury building, doormen, security cameras everywhere. They won't look here. Reverse psychology with Mafia bosses. That's comforting. It should be. I'm still alive, aren't I? The penthouse was obscene. Marble floors, designer furniture, art that probably cost more than my entire Chicago apartment. A kitchen with appliances I didn't know how to use. 3 bedrooms, each with an en suite bathroom. Mira's eyes went wide. Are we rich now? We're borrowing rich, I corrected. This is Mr. Moretti's, Papa's, she interrupted, already claiming the title permanently. Dante set the bags down. Actually, this is yours now. The deed will transfer to Elena Moretti once the paperwork clears. I stared at him. You're giving us a penthouse. I'm creating a believable cover. Wealthy widow relocating to be near family needs appropriate housing. He moved to the windows, checking sightlines with professional paranoia. Plus, it's easier to secure one building than multiple locations. Easier for who? For Marco's men who'll be stationed in the lobby and monitoring security feeds 24/7. He turned back. You're not prisoners, but you're not unsupervised. The Vitales are hunting, and they're not subtle about it. Marco appeared with additional bags, clothing, I realized. Complete wardrobes for both Mira and me. How did you... I started. Sizes from your abandoned apartment. Best guesses on style. He set them down. If something doesn't fit, there's a boutique on the 3rd floor that owes me favors. Everyone owes you favors, Dante said. It's a useful currency. They moved through the space with easy familiarity, checking doors, testing windows, discussing security protocols in low voices. I watched this choreography of paranoia and realized how completely my life had shifted. 3 days ago, my biggest concern was Mira's adjustment to kindergarten. Now I was living in a penthouse under a false name, while 2 Mafia enforcers discussed kill zones. Mama, there's a bathtub with jets, Mira called from one of the bathrooms. Don't turn them on yet, I called back. Dante's mouth quirked. Let her enjoy it. The building has excellent plumbing. She'll flood the place, then we'll deal with it. He moved closer, voice dropping. Elena, I need you to understand something. The next 48 hours are critical. You'll be memorizing your new life, learning the background, becoming Elena Moretti in every way that matters. It's going to be intense. I can handle intense. Can you? His eyes searched mine. Because there's a difference between survival mode and actually inhabiting a new identity. You'll need to forget Elena Winters ever existed. Can you do that? I thought of Chicago, of my ex-husband's fists, of the midnight escape with Mira wrapped in blankets, of 6 months building something fragile and hopeful in this city. I've been trying to forget her anyway, I admitted. This just makes it official. Something shifted in his expression. Understanding, maybe. Then let's begin. The next hours blurred together. Marco provided files, thick dossiers on the Moretti family history, complete with photos doctored to include me. My late husband had been Antonio Russo, died in a car accident 2 years ago. I'd been living in Philadelphia with Mira, working as a freelance graphic designer, finally deciding to reconnect with my cousin Dante. Graphic designer? I asked. You mentioned an art degree in college. It tracks. Dante pointed to another document. Antonio was a financial consultant. Clean background. No mob connections. His death was genuinely accidental. I appropriated the identity from someone the Vitales would never think to investigate. You appropriated Jesus. You just steal dead people's lives? When necessary. No apology. His family was estranged. No one will come looking. That's morbid. That's thorough. We worked through dinner takeout that Marco arranged, eaten over spreadsheets and fabricated history. Mira entertained herself in the living room, building elaborate stories with her stuffed rabbit, while Dante's world consumed her mother. Your education, Marco prompted. Where did you and Dante's mothers meet? I glanced at the file. College, NYU. They were roommates, sophomore year. And your maiden name? DeLuca, Elena Marie DeLuca. I traced the fake birth certificate, born in Albany, moved to the city for school. Met Antonio at a mutual friend's wedding. Good. What was Antonio's favorite drink? Bourbon, Maker's Mark specifically. Allergies? Shellfish. And he had a scar on his left shoulder from a skiing accident. They drilled me for hours, details piling on details until Elena Winters felt like a ghost, and Elena Moretti started to solidify. It was disorienting, exhausting. By the time Mira finally fell asleep in one of the massive bedrooms, I felt like I'd lived an entire lifetime that never happened. Dante found me on the balcony near midnight. I'd snuck outside despite Marco's protests about sightlines, needing air, needing space from the suffocating fiction we'd constructed. You'll freeze out here, he said, offering a blanket. I took it, wrapped it around my shoulders. The city spread below us, lights twinkling like a scattered constellation. Do you ever get tired of it? The view? The lying, The constant vigilance, the violence waiting around every corner. I glanced at him. Or is this just normal for you now? It's been normal for so long I don't remember anything else. He joined me at the railing, careful to maintain distance. But tired? Yes. Every fucking day. Then why continue? Because stopping means dying. In this life, you're either predator or prey. There's no retirement plan. He stared out at the harbor. Though sometimes I imagine it, walking away, becoming someone ordinary. What would ordinary Dante do? Teach, maybe. History or literature. Something quiet, peaceful. His laugh was bitter, ridiculous, right? The man who's killed dozens imagining himself grading papers. Not ridiculous, human. I'm not sure I qualify as human anymore. I turned to face him fully. You made pancakes this morning. Terrible pancakes, but the effort counts. You installed a nightlight for a child you barely know. You're rewriting your entire operation to protect us. That's human, Dante. Painfully human. Or, it's a sociopath mimicking humanity effectively enough to be convincing. Do sociopaths question whether they're sociopaths? Probably not. He met my eyes. But I've done things, Elena. Things that would make you run if you knew the details. I watched you kill a man. That was clean. Professional. I've done worse. His voice dropped. Much worse. To people who deserved it? Does anyone deserve torture? Prolonged suffering? Being disappeared so thoroughly their families never find bodies? He gripped the railing. I tell myself yes. Tell myself they were enemies, threats, necessary casualties. But late at night, when I'm alone with it, I'm not sure anymore. The confession hung between us, raw and bleeding. My ex-husband broke my ribs once, I said quietly. I told the emergency room I fell downstairs. Believed it myself almost. Convinced myself I'd provoked him, that I deserved it for not having dinner ready on time. I pulled the blanket tighter. Took me 8 months to realize he'd never stop, that the pattern would only escalate, that leaving meant survival. I'm sorry. Don't be. It taught me something important. I held his gaze. Everyone's capable of violence. The question is whether we recognize it, control it, or let it control us. You recognize it. That puts you ahead of most people. Recognizing it doesn't absolve the acts. No. But it suggests capacity for change. I'm not changing, Elena. I can't afford to. The moment I go soft, the Vitales win. The moment I hesitate, people I'm sworn to protect die. I'm not asking you to change. I'm saying you're not the monster you think you are. He laughed, but it sounded broken. You've known me 3 days, long enough to see how careful you are with Mira, how much you're sacrificing to keep us safe, how your hands shake slightly every time someone mentions Sophia. I stepped closer, long enough to recognize someone who's been told they're a monster so many times they started believing it. And what if it's true? What if that's exactly what I am? Then we're both in trouble. Because despite my better judgment, despite every red flag screaming at me to run, I stopped, uncertain if I should say it. What? His voice had gone rough. I'm starting to trust you. The admission settled between us like a confession. Dangerous. Irrevocable. Dante reached out slowly, his hand cupping my face with devastating gentleness. Don't trust me, Elena. I'll disappoint you. I disappoint everyone eventually. Maybe I'm willing to risk it. You shouldn't be. And yet here I am, living in your penthouse, using your protection, letting my daughter call you Papa. My voice dropped to barely a whisper. Wanting to know what your mouth tastes like. His thumb brushed my cheekbone. This is a mistake. Probably. If we cross this line, everything becomes more complicated. Everything's already complicated. Elena. I kissed him. Not gentle. Not tentative. I grabbed his shirt and pulled him down and pressed my mouth against his like I was drowning and he was air. For a heartbeat, he froze. Then something in him broke and he kissed back with a hunger that felt like 3 years of grief finding an outlet. His hand slid into my hair, gripping, anchoring, while his mouth moved against mine with bruising intensity. It tasted like whiskey and danger and something desperately lonely. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead dropped against mine. This is a terrible idea, he whispered. I know. It puts you in more danger. I know. I'm going to ruin this. Ruin you. Maybe. I met his eyes. Or maybe we'll ruin each other and somehow end up less broken. He kissed me again, softer this time. Careful. Like I was something precious he was afraid of shattering. Behind us, through the glass doors, Marco cleared his throat pointedly. We broke apart. Dante's expression shifted from vulnerable to controlled in seconds. "The documentation is ready for your review," Marco said, carefully neutral. "When you're finished." Stargazing. "We were just—" I started. "Discussing security protocols," Dante finished smoothly. "I'll be right there." Marco disappeared back inside. But not before I caught the knowing look he shot his boss. "He knows," I said. "Marco knows everything. It's his job." Dante stepped back, putting professional distance between us again. "But he's right. We have work to finish." "Dante." "Tomorrow," he said quietly. "Tomorrow we can discuss what this means. Tonight, we need to make sure Elena Moretti is bulletproof. Deal?" I nodded, even though I wanted to grab him again. Wanted to keep kissing him until the world stopped being dangerous. Instead, I followed him inside, where our fake history waited to be memorized, and our real future remained terrifyingly uncertain. I found the scars by accident. Dante had fallen asleep on the couch, files spread across his chest, exhaustion finally winning against his relentless vigilance. Marco had left hours ago. Mira was safely unconscious in her room. The penthouse was quiet, except for the ambient hum of the city 37 floors below. I'd come out for water. Found him instead, shirt unbuttoned, head tilted back, completely unguarded. The lamplight caught the raised tissue across his ribs. Old wounds, healed badly. At least 5 distinct scars, maybe more hidden by fabric and shadow. I shouldn't have stared. Shouldn't have cataloged the damage, but seeing him vulnerable, seeing the physical evidence of violence he'd survived, made him suddenly more real, more human. His eyes opened, catching me watching. Neither of us moved for a long moment. "Can't sleep?" he asked quietly, voice rough with interrupted rest. "Adrenaline, new bed, general crisis." I gestured vaguely. "The usual." He sat up slowly, files sliding to the floor. "What time is it?" 3-ish. "You should be resting. Tomorrow's going to be intensive. Marco's bringing someone to test your cover story." "I know. I stopped. Started again." "Can I ask about them?" His hand moved unconsciously to his ribs, covering the scars. "Not much to tell. Hazards of the job." "Dante." Something in my tone made him pause. "Consider. What do you want to know? How close you've come to dying?" "Uncomfortably close. Multiple times." He stood, moving to the windows. Always the windows, always checking sightlines even half asleep. These were from 3 years ago. Different crew, different war. I was arrogant. Thought I was untouchable. What happened? Ambush. They grabbed me outside Sophia's dance studio. Held me for 16 hours. Wanted information on shipments, routes, personnel. His reflection in the glass looked distant. I didn't give them anything. So, they got creative with knives. My stomach turned. Jesus. Marco found me eventually. Killed everyone involved. Spent 2 weeks in a private hospital recovering. He turned to face me. That's when Sophia died. While I was unconscious, bleeding out, she borrowed my car. If I'd been there, if I'd been paying attention, you'd have died in that explosion instead. Exactly. The truth of it sat between us, heavy and horrible. He'd survived torture only to lose his daughter because he survived. "That's not your fault," I said firmly. "Isn't it? Everything in my life is a chain reaction. This decision leads to that consequence. I chose this life, Elena. I built this empire on violence and intimidation. Sophia died because of choices I made years before she was even born. Or she died because someone planted a bomb. Because this world is brutal and random, and sometimes there's no one to blame except the person who lit the fuse. Philosophical absolution doesn't ease the guilt. Neither does self-flagellation. But here you are." I moved closer to him. "You think punishing yourself honors her memory?" "I think making sure it doesn't happen again honors her memory." His eyes met mine. "Which is why this," he gestured between us, "is dangerous. Because caring about you, about Mira, means creating new vulnerabilities, new targets. We're already targets. Not like this, not personal." His voice went rough. "If the Vitalis discover you mean something to me beyond strategy, they'll use it. They'll hurt you to hurt me. And I can't." He stopped, jaw tight. "I can't survive that again." "So what? You stay alone forever? Never let anyone close because they might become leverage?" "Yes, that's exactly what I do. Sounds like dying slowly. It's surviving. That's all that matters." I closed the remaining distance between us, close enough to feel his heat, see the exhaustion in his face. What if surviving isn't enough anymore? What if you want to actually live? I don't get that option. Everyone gets that option. You're just too scared to take it. His hand shot out, gripping my arm not painfully, but firmly. I'm not scared. I'm realistic. I'm accepting the limits of this life. Bullshit. You're terrified. I held his gaze. That kiss on the balcony terrified you. Mira calling you Papa terrifies you. The possibility that you might want this, want us, absolutely fucking terrifies you. Of course it does, because wanting things gets people killed. His control cracked. Do you understand that? Every time I've allowed myself to love something, it's been ripped away. My parents, assassinated when I was 15. Sophia, blown to pieces. Anyone who gets close to me ends up collateral damage. So yes, Elena, I'm terrified. I'm terrified that letting you in means signing your death warrant. The confession tore out of him raw and bleeding. I cupped his face with both hands, forcing him to look at me. Then maybe stop deciding our fates for us. Maybe let me choose whether the risk is worth it. You don't know what you're choosing. I'm choosing you. Scars and guilt and danger and all. My thumb brushed his cheekbone. I'm choosing whatever this is between us, even knowing it could destroy everything. Elena, I kissed him. Again. Softer than the balcony, but with the same desperate honesty. This time he didn't hesitate. His arms wrapped around me, pulling me flush against him, and he kissed me like I was salvation and damnation tangled together. His hand slid up my back, into my hair, tilting my head to deepen the kiss. It was need and fear, and 3 days of accumulated tension finally finding release. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead against mine. This changes everything, he whispered. I know. I can't promise you safety, can't promise you normal, can't even promise I won't get you killed. I'm not asking for promises. I'm asking you to stop running from this. I don't know how. The admission sounded like it cost him. For 3 years, I've been numb, going through motions, existing but not living, and then you. His hands tightened on me. You and Mira crashed into my life, and suddenly I'm feeling things again, and I don't know how to control it. Maybe you don't control it. Maybe you just feel it. That's terrifying advice. Good thing I'm terrifying. He laughed, genuine and surprised. You are. Terrifyingly brave. Terrifyingly stubborn. Terrifyingly beautiful. Smooth talker. I'm wildly out of practice at this. At what? Romance? At being honest about wanting someone. His eyes searched mine. At admitting I think about you constantly. About what it would feel like to have this whatever this is be real instead of strategy. It is real, Dante. Is it? Or am I projecting? Seeing redemption where there's just circumstantial attraction and shared trauma. I pulled back enough to look at him properly. You want me to prove this is real? I want to believe it. That's different. Then believe this. I took his hand, pressed it over my racing heart. I'm terrified too. Terrified of trusting you. Of putting Mira in your orbit. Of falling for someone whose life is measured in survival instead of years. But I'm doing it anyway because the alternative staying numb, staying safe, never taking the risk that's not living either. His hand spread wide over my chest, feeling my heartbeat. What if I fail you? Then we fail together. But at least we tried. He trailed off. I don't have words for how much I want that to be enough. So make it enough. He kissed me again, and this time it felt different. Less desperate. More certain. Like a decision being made instead of a mistake being committed. His mouth moved to my jaw, my neck, trailing heat that made my breath catch. I gripped his shoulders, feeling the muscle and scars beneath fabric, grounding myself in his solidity. We should stop, he murmured against my skin. Before this goes somewhere we can't take back. What if I don't want to take it back? He pulled away, eyes dark and searching. Elena, I'm not asking for forever. I'm asking for now. For this moment where we're both alive and feeling something real. I held his gaze. Can we have that? Just that. He studied me for a long time. Then, slowly, he nodded. What followed was tender and fierce and complicated. We moved to his bedroom, the one room Mira wouldn't accidentally wander into, and discovered each other with the careful intensity of people who know they're making a mistake but can't stop themselves. His hands traced my body like I was precious, breakable. My fingers mapped his scars, each one a story of survival. We didn't speak much, didn't need to. The silence between us felt full instead of empty. Afterward, I lay against his chest, listening to his heartbeat slow. His fingers traced idle patterns on my shoulder. "This complicates things," he said quietly. Everything was already complicated. More complicated than, probably. I tilted my head to look at him. "Regret it? No. Ask me tomorrow when reality returns. But right now?" His arm tightened around me. "No." "Good." We lay there as the city began to wake beyond the windows, gray dawn creeping in, the illusion of peace before chaos resumed. "Elena?" His voice was soft. Thank you." "For what?" "For being brave when I couldn't be. For pushing when I wanted to run. For he stopped. Started again. For making me feel human again." I pressed a kiss to his chest, right over his heart. "You were always human, Dante. You just forgot for a while." His hand slid into my hair, holding me close. "Stay with me, just for a few more hours, before we have to be Elena Moretti and Dante Moretti again. I'm not going anywhere." And for those few hours before dawn fully broke, we pretended the world outside didn't exist. Pretended we were just two people finding each other instead of two people caught in a war neither of us chose. It was a beautiful lie, almost as beautiful as believing it might last. Marco's expression when he arrived at 8 a.m. told me everything. "We have a problem." Dante was already dressed, back in his tailored armor of expensive suits and controlled menace. The man I'd held last night had disappeared behind professional distance. "How bad?" he asked, pouring coffee with steady hands. Vitale put a bounty out, 500,000 for information leading to Elena Winters' location. Another $1 million if they deliver her alive. The cup paused halfway to Dante's mouth. $1 million. They want her very badly. Marco glanced at me, something apologetic in his expression. "Or they want you very badly, and she's the lever." I'd been feeding Mira breakfast, trying to maintain normalcy. My hand trembled on the orange juice. "What does that mean?" "It means every street soldier, every desperate criminal, every person who owes the Vitales money will be hunting you." Dante set the coffee down. "It means we accelerate the timeline." "How?" "The identity transition happens today, right now." He was already moving, pulling files from his briefcase. "Marco, get Father Dominic. We're doing this properly." "Dante," Marco started. "Now Marco." Something passed between them. Some silent communication I couldn't interpret. Then Marco nodded and left. "Doing what properly?" I asked. Dante turned to me, expression unreadable. "The cover story is you're my widowed cousin, but there's a stronger protection I can offer. One that would make you completely untouchable." "I don't understand." "Marriage." The word dropped like a bomb. "If you're my wife, not my cousin, the Vitales can't touch you without declaring open war on my family. It's an old rule. Attacking a made man's wife means blood feud. They're arrogant, but not stupid enough to risk that." I stared at him. "You want to marry me. I want to protect you. Marriage achieves that." That's insane. We barely know each other." "We know enough." His voice remained level. "You've slept in my arms. I know the scar on your left shoulder from where your ex shoved you into a doorframe. You know I have nightmares about burning cars. We know each other better than most people who marry for love." "Dante, it's strategy, Elena. Pure strategy." But something flickered in his eyes. "Unless it's not. Unless last night meant, last night was complicated." "Exactly. Which is why this is the logical solution." He moved closer. "I'm not asking you to love me. I'm asking you to let me keep you alive. Marriage does that definitively. And what about Mira? You just become her stepfather overnight? I legally adopt her, complete the protection." He glanced at her, still eating pancakes, oblivious. "She already calls me Papa. We make it official." The casual way he said it, like rearranging his entire life for us, was simple arithmetic, made my chest tight. "This is insane," I repeated. "This is necessary." He gripped my shoulders gently. "Elena, I need you to trust me. The bounty changes everything. We don't have time for slow integration. We need you absolutely protected, immediately. Protected or claimed." His jaw tightened. Don't what?" "Ask if this is about keeping me safe or keeping me—" I pulled away from his grip. "Because last night felt personal, Dante. This morning feels transactional. It's both. You want honesty? Fine. Yes, I want to protect you. Yes, the marriage is strategic, but also yes, I want you in a way that terrifies me, because wanting things has only ever destroyed me. His control fractured slightly. So excuse me if I'm hiding behind strategy, instead of admitting that the thought of the Vitalas putting their hands on you makes me want to burn their entire family to ash. The confession hung between us, raw and jagged. Before I could respond, the door opened. Marco returned with an elderly man in priest's robes. Father Dominic, Dante greeted. Thank you for coming on short notice. Dante. The priest's eyes were kind but knowing. Marco explained the situation. This is the woman, Elena, and her daughter, Mira. Dante's hand found the small of my back, possessive. We need the ceremony performed immediately. I see. Father Dominic studied us both. And she's consenting to this? All eyes turned to me. Mira looked up from her breakfast, sensing the tension. Mama? What's happening? What was happening? A mafia boss wanted to marry me for protection. Except it wasn't just protection. It was something messier and more complicated and far more dangerous than simple strategy. I looked at Dante, really looked at him, saw the fear beneath the control, the desperate hope beneath the professional mask. This man who'd killed without hesitation was silently begging me to say yes. Mama? Mira's voice was smaller now. I crouched beside her. Baby, remember how we talked about Papa keeping us safe? Uh-huh. Well, to keep us extra safe, he and Mama need to get married, like a family. Would that be okay with you? Her eyes went wide. Really? Papa would be my real Papa? If you want him to be. She looked at Dante with that too serious expression. Do you want to be my real Papa? Dante crouched down beside us. More than anything, Piccola, if you'll have me. Mira launched herself at him, small arms wrapping around his neck. Yes, 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 yes. Over her head, Dante's eyes met mine. Vulnerable, desperate, absolutely terrified. I stood slowly. Father Dominic, we'll need to do this quickly. Before I change my mind. Elena, Dante started. Don't make it more complicated with explanations. I held his gaze. You want to protect us? Fine, we'll do this. But you and I gestured between us. We're going to have a very long conversation about what this means beyond strategy. Deal? Deal, he said quietly. The ceremony was bizarre, surreal. Father Dominic produced rings from somewhere, simple gold bands that fit perfectly, which meant Dante had planned this before even proposing. Marco and one of his men served as witnesses. Mira held her stuffed rabbit and watched with solemn excitement. The words washed over me in a haze. Traditional vows, love and honor, till death do us part. When Father Dominic said, "You may kiss the bride," Dante hesitated. Then he cupped my face with both hands and kissed me soft and careful and absolutely nothing like the desperate kisses we'd shared the night before. This was a promise, a vow that transcended the words we'd just spoken. When we broke apart, he whispered, "I'll keep you safe, whatever it takes." "I know," I whispered back. Mira clapped. Marco looked vaguely concerned. Father Dominic blessed us with a knowing expression that suggested he'd married plenty of couples under similarly questionable circumstances. And just like that, I was Elena Moretti, officially, legally, irrevocably. The rest of the day passed in administrative blur. Documents signed, bank accounts transferred, my new identity solidifying with each piece of paper. Dante worked with quiet efficiency, transforming me from witness to wife to untouchable. By evening, I was exhausted. Mira had fallen asleep early, overwhelmed by excitement and change. I found Dante on the balcony again, our apparent default location for heavy conversations. "Congratulations," I said dryly. "You're a husband and father. How does it feel?" "Terrifying. Necessary. Right." He looked at me. "In that order. Romantic. I'm not good at romance, Elena. I'm good at survival. I've noticed." I leaned against the railing. "So what now? We just play house? Pretend this is real until the threat passes?" "The threat won't pass. The Vitales won't stop until I'm dead, or they are." His voice hardened. "Which means this is permanent. The marriage, the identity, everything. You understand that?" "I'm starting to. And you're angry." "I'm processing." I met his eyes. "You gave me about 5 minutes to decide whether to permanently tie myself to you. That's not exactly informed consent. You could have said no." "Could I? With $1 million bounty and your priest already in the living room?" I shook my head. "You manipulated the situation, Dante. Efficiently, but still. Yes, I did. No apology. Because the alternative was you dying. I'll manipulate, lie, and coerced to prevent that. I'm not sorry. God, you're infuriating. I'm honest. That's different. I wanted to argue. Wanted to be angrier. But he was right, he'd been brutally honest about his methods, if not his feelings. Last night, I said quietly. Was that manipulation too? His expression cracked. No. Last night was the first honest thing I've done in 3 years. And now? Now you're my wife. Which means... He stopped. Restarted. Which means I have to be more careful. More controlled. Because the Vitales will look for weaknesses, and if they discover you mean something beyond strategy, we're back to this. You protecting me by pushing me away. I'm protecting you by being smart about how close I let myself get. Too late. I moved closer to him. You've already let me in, Dante. The marriage just made it official. Elena, do you want this? Actually want this? Or am I just convenient penance? The question stopped him cold. I want... His voice rough. I want so many things I can't have. I want Sophia back. I want to undo every violent choice I've made. I want to be someone worthy of the way Mira looks at me. I want... He stopped, jaw tight. What? What do you want? You. God help me. I want you in ways that have nothing to do with strategy, and everything to do with how you make me feel almost human again. The admission tore out of him, but wanting you means endangering you. So I don't know how to want you safely. Maybe you can't. Maybe that's the point. Before he could respond, Marco burst through the balcony door. We've got incoming. 3 cars just entered the parking garage. Vitale soldiers. Dante's entire demeanor shifted. How did they find us? Don't know, but they're armed and coming up. Elena, get Mira, now. Dante was already moving, pulling a gun from somewhere. Marco, secure the elevator. I want. Glass exploded inward. Someone had shot through the window. The bullet hit the wall, inches from my head. Dante tackled me to the ground as more shots followed. Systematic, calculated. They weren't trying to kill me, they were hurting us. Move. Dante hauled me up, pushing me toward Mira's room. I ran. Behind me, gunfire erupted. Marco returning shots. Dante's voice cold and commanding, orchestrating defense. I burst into Mira's room. She was sitting up in bed, eyes wide with terror. Mama, we have to go, baby, right now. I scooped her up, rabbit and all. The bedroom door exploded inward. A man stood there, gun raised, smiling. Hello, Mrs. Moretti. The Vitales would like a word. The man's smile reminded me of something dead wearing a human face. Don't scream, he said pleasantly. I'd hate to have to hurt the child to make a point. Mira trembled in my arms, face pressed against my neck. I backed toward the window, calculating. 37 floors. No escape that way. The door blocked. Dante somewhere beyond. Fighting. You're going to put the girl down, the man continued, and come quietly. Or I shoot her first and drag your corpse out. Your choice. Like hell. He aimed at Mira. Everything in me went cold and sharp. The fear crystallized into something harder. I'd run from Chicago to protect her. I'd accepted Dante's offer. Married a stranger. Rebuilt my entire life to keep her safe. I would not let this man harm her. Okay, I said, voice steady. Okay. Just don't hurt her. I set Mira down gently, met her terrified eyes. Close your eyes, baby. Count Mississippis. Don't open them until Mama or Papa says, Mama. Do it, Mira. Trust me. She squeezed her eyes shut, started counting. 1 Mississippi. The man laughed. Smart kid. Shame she'll grow up without. I threw the lamp, not at him, at the window behind him, which I'd noticed was already cracked from the earlier gunfire. The glass shattered spectacularly, alarm instantly blaring. In his moment of distraction, I charged. I wasn't strong, wasn't trained, but I was desperate and fighting for my daughter. I slammed into him with everything I had, clawing at his gun hand, biting, scratching, anything to create an opening. The gun went off, deafening in the enclosed space. I felt the heat of the bullet pass my ear, too close. Then Dante was there, moving like violence incarnate. He grabbed the man, wrenched him away from me, and did something quick and brutal with his hands. The man's neck snapped with a sound like breaking kindling. Dante let the body drop, immediately turning to me. Are you hit? No, Mira. I've got her. He scooped up my daughter, who'd kept her eyes closed the entire time, still counting. Marco. Clear. West wing secure. Marco's voice came through an earpiece. 2 more in the elevator shaft. Handle it. We're evacuating. Dante grabbed my hand, pulled me toward the door. Stay close. Don't look at anything. Just follow. The living room was a war zone. 3 bodies, bullet holes in walls, blood on the marble floors. Marco and 2 other men moved with military precision, weapons raised, clearing corners. Service elevator, Dante commanded. Now. We ran through the penthouse, this beautiful space that was supposed to be safe, toward the service access I hadn't known existed. Dante moved with Mira, clutched against his chest, his other hand gripping mine, pulling me along. The service elevator was steel and utilitarian. We crammed inside Dante, me, Mira, Marco, and 1 guard whose name I never learned. How did they find us? I asked as the elevator descended. Someone talked. Dante's voice was ice. Someone in my organization sold your location. Who? I'll find out. And when I do? His jaw tightened. They'll wish the Vitales had killed them first. The elevator opened to an underground parking structure. A black SUV waited, engine running. We climbed in. The driver, someone I didn't recognize, pulled out immediately, tires squealing against concrete. Where are we going? I asked. Somewhere the Vitales can't follow. Dante finally loosened his grip on Mira slightly. Piccola, you can open your eyes now. We're safe. Mira blinked, looking around. Did the bad man go away? Yes, he's gone. I promise. She studied his face seriously. Did you do violence? The question, so innocent, so devastating, made Dante flinch. Yes, he admitted. I did violence to keep you and your mama safe. I'm sorry you had to be near it. It's okay, Papa. Mama says sometimes people have to fight to protect their families. She snuggled against his chest. You were protecting us. That's different. I watched Dante's expression crack. This man who'd just killed 3 people was being absolved by a 5-year-old who understood more than she should have to. Your mama is very wise, he said quietly. We drove for 2 hours. North, into rural areas I didn't recognize. The city fell away, replaced by woods and narrow roads, and finally a long driveway leading to an isolated estate. My family's original compound, Dante explained as we pulled up to a massive stone structure. Built by my grandfather. Fortress architecture. The Vitales know about it, but attacking here means open war. They're not ready for that. Yet, the house was beautiful in a brutal way. All stone and iron, built to withstand siege. Guards patrolled the perimeter. Security cameras covered every angle. Inside was warmer than expected. Wood paneling, leather furniture, a massive fireplace. Someone's home, preserved and protected. Guest rooms are upstairs, Marco said. I'll have food brought up. I'll show them. Dante still hadn't put Mira down. She'd fallen asleep against him during the drive, exhausted by terror and adrenaline. I followed him up a wide staircase to the 2nd floor. He pushed open a door to a bedroom suite, large bed, adjoining bathroom, windows overlooking the forest. Is this your room? I asked. Was, growing up. He laid Mira gently on the bed, tucking blankets around her small form. Seemed appropriate. I moved to the window, staring out at the darkening woods. My hands were shaking, delayed shock catching up. Elena, Dante's voice, soft behind me. I'm fine. You're not. The words caught. I'm alive. Mira's alive. That's what matters. His hand settled on my shoulders, gentle. You attacked an armed man to protect her. Of course I did. She's my daughter. You could have died. So could she. I made the choice I could live with. I turned to face him. Unlike you, who seems determined to die protecting everyone around you. That's different. How? How is it different, Dante? You talk about keeping us safe, but you're the one who throws himself into violence without hesitation. What happens when you don't come back? When your luck runs out? Then Marco takes over your protection. It's already arranged. I don't want Marco. I stopped, realized what I was about to say. What? His eyes searched mine. What do you want, Elena? You. Alive. Not martyring yourself because you think that's what protecting us means. I gripped his shirt. You can't save us if you're dead. I can ensure you're provided for. I don't need provisions. I need you. The admission hung between us, more honest than I'd intended. Dante's hands came up to cup my face. Elena, I know this is complicated. I know we're married for strategy and protection, and 1,000 reasons that aren't love. But I held his gaze. I don't want to be your widow, Dante. I don't want Mira to lose another father. I don't want to wake up one day and find out you sacrificed yourself because you thought that was the noble thing. I'm not noble. I'm pragmatic. You're a self-destructive martyr hiding behind pragmatism. I pulled him closer. And I need you to stop. For us, for yourself, for whatever this could become if you'd just let it. You're asking me to be selfish. I'm asking you to want to live. Not just survive, actually live. My voice dropped. With us, as a real family, not just a strategic arrangement. He kissed me then, hard and desperate and terrified, like he was drowning and I was air and he couldn't quite believe I was real. When we broke apart, his forehead pressed against mine. I don't know how to want that without destroying it. Then we'll figure it out together. But you have to try, Dante. You have to actually try. I'm trying. Every moment I'm with you, I'm trying. His hands tightened on my face. But the Vitalis won't stop. My enemies won't disappear. This life I've built, it doesn't allow for peaceful endings. Then we'll take violent beginnings and make something better from them. He laughed, but it sounded broken. You're impossibly optimistic. I'm impossibly desperate. There's a difference. Elena, a knock interrupted. Marco's voice through the door. Dante. We found the leak. Dante's entire demeanor shifted. Who? You'll want to see this yourself. He pulled away from me, expression hardening into something cold and lethal. Stay here with Mira. Don't leave this room. Dante. Please. I need to know you're safe while I handle this. He paused at the door. Lock it behind me. Don't open it for anyone except me or Marco. Understood? I nodded. He left. I locked the door, then collapsed against it, adrenaline finally crashing. Mira stirred on the bed. Mama, I'm here, baby. Are we safe now? I looked at the locked door, the fortified room, the armed guards patrolling outside. We're as safe as we can be. Is Papa okay? He's doing what he needs to do. What he needed to do, apparently, was execute whoever had betrayed us. I heard raised voices downstairs. Then, a single gunshot. Then silence. Mira climbed out of bed, moved to me, wrapped her small arms around my waist. Papa will keep us safe. I know, baby. He promised. He did. Papas don't break promises. I held her close, not correcting her naive faith. Because maybe she was right. Maybe Dante would keep us safe. Maybe he'd figure out how to protect us without destroying himself. Or maybe we'd all burn together when his enemies finally caught up. I didn't know which outcome was more likely. I only knew I'd made my choice, for better or worse. We were tied to Dante Moretti now. In law, in protection, in something deeper that I couldn't quite name but felt every time he looked at me like I was worth saving. The door unlocked. Dante stood there, blood on his shirt, expression exhausted. It's done, was all he said. I pulled him inside, locked the door again, and held him while he tried to remember how to be human instead of monster. Chapter 9. Surrender or Separation. 3 days at the compound and I understood why Dante had avoided returning. The house remembered. Every corner held ghosts. Photos of his parents, faded marks on doorframes tracking his childhood height. Sophia's drawings still pinned to the refrigerator in the kitchen. No one had disturbed them. No one had dared. Dante moved through the space like he was haunting his own past. Mira, oblivious to the weight of history, had claimed the compound as her kingdom. She ran through halls, explored rooms, demanded Marco teach her how to play chess. She called it Papa's Castle and seemed convinced we'd live there forever. I wasn't so sure. The man who'd betrayed us had been one of Dante's oldest soldiers, someone he'd trusted for 15 years. Dante had executed him personally in the wine cellar. I'd heard the shot, heard the finality. He hadn't spoken about it since. Now, on the third night, I found him in what must have been his father's study. Leather-bound books, heavy desk, portrait of a severe-looking man who had Dante's eyes. Your father? I asked, gesturing to the painting. Matteo Moretti, dead 20 years. Dante didn't look up from the papers he was reviewing. Assassinated at a sit-down with the Carbone family. Politics gone wrong. I'm sorry. Don't be. He was a bastard. Brilliant, but brutal. Made enemies like some men collect stamps. He set the papers aside. I inherited his empire and his enemies. Lucky me. I moved into the room, closing the door behind me. We need to talk. Ominous phrasing. I'm serious, Dante. Finally, he looked up. About what happens next. About whether we stay here indefinitely or try to rebuild some kind of life. I crossed my arms. About whether this marriage is real or convenient fiction. It's real, legally binding, consummated. His tone was carefully neutral. What more do you need? Honesty. About what you want. Not what's strategic, not what keeps me safest. What you actually want. He stood, moving to the window. Always the windows. Always checking threats, even in his childhood home. I want the Vitalis destroyed. I want my organization secure. He stopped. What? I want to stop waking up expecting you to be gone. That some part of this was a dream, and I'm still alone in that penthouse with nothing but guilt and ghosts. His voice dropped. I want this to be real, and I'm terrified it's not. The confession broke something in me. I moved to him, turned him away from the window, made him look at me. It's real. I'm real. Mira's real. This thing between us, whatever it is, it's real. For how long? Until the danger passes? Until you realize what you've actually married into? Stop deciding my feelings for me. I gripped his face. I'm not leaving. I'm not running. I made vows, and despite the circumstances, I meant them. Elena. I kissed him. Deep and certain and absolute. He responded immediately, hands sliding into my hair, pulling me closer. The kiss turned hungry. 3 days of tension and unspoken need finally breaking through his control. Upstairs, I whispered against his mouth. Your room, now. Mira is asleep. Marco's watching the monitors. We have time. Something wild flickered in his eyes. Need and fear and desperate hope. Are you sure? He asked. I've never been more sure of anything. He lifted me, literally lifted me, and carried me from the study. Up the stairs. Down the hall to his childhood bedroom, now preserved like a museum. We tumbled onto the bed, urgent and clumsy and absolutely certain. This time was different from the penthouse. Less desperate, more intentional. We took time learning each other's bodies, mapping scars and sensitive places, and the precise way to make the other gasp. Dante was careful with me, reverent. Like I was something precious, he was afraid of breaking. I'm not fragile, I whispered. You're everything. His mouth traced my collarbone. Everything I didn't know I could still want. We moved together, finding rhythm, losing ourselves in sensation and connection, and something that felt dangerously close to love. Afterward, we lay tangled in sheets, his fingers tracing idle patterns on my shoulder. I killed a man in front of you, he said quietly. 3 days ago. Shot him in the head because he betrayed us. I know, and you're still here. Still touching me like I'm not a monster, because you're not. You're a man who does monstrous things to protect what's his. I tilted my head to look at him. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. Monsters kill for pleasure. You kill for purpose. It doesn't make it right, but it makes it different. He was quiet for a long moment. My father used to say the same thing. That violence with purpose was holy. Violence without purpose was sin. Do you believe that? I don't know what I believe anymore. His arm tightened around me. Except that I believe in this. In you. In Mira. In the possibility that maybe I can keep something good alive for once. You can. You will. Such certainty. Someone has to have it. I pressed a kiss to his chest. Because you're too busy catastrophizing. Catastrophizing is how I've survived this long. And now you need to learn how to do more than survive. He rolled, pinning me gently beneath him. His eyes were dark and intense and full of something raw. Teach me. What? Teach me how to live instead of just existing. Because I don't remember, Elena. I don't remember what it feels like to want tomorrow, instead of just enduring it. I cupped his face, this dangerous, broken man who'd become my husband. It starts like this. With being present. With feeling instead of numbing. With choosing to stay even when running seems safer. I'm terrified of failing you. Then fail. We'll figure out together what comes after. He kissed me again, soft and searching, and we made love a second time, slower, deeper, full of unspoken promises neither of us were brave enough to voice aloud. Later, near dawn, I woke to find him watching me. Can't sleep. Didn't want to miss this, he admitted. Miss what? You here, real. His fingers brushed my cheek. I keep thinking I'll wake up and this will have been elaborate delusion. It's real, Dante. Even the part where you love me? The question so vulnerable, so terrified, made my breath catch. Did I love him? This man who'd killed in front of me, who'd forced me into marriage for protection, who moved through the world like violence was his native language. I thought about the way he'd installed a nightlight for Mira, the way he'd carried her from danger without hesitation, the way he looked at me like I was salvation and damnation tangled together. "Yes," I whispered. "Even that part." His eyes closed briefly. "Say it again." "I love you. God help me, I love you." "God won't help. He gave up on me years ago." Dante's voice was rough. "But if you mean it, if this is real, it's real. I promise." He pulled me against him, holding me so tightly I could barely breathe. "I love you too. I think I have since Mira called me Papa, and you didn't correct her. Since you challenged me instead of cowering. Since you—" He stopped. "I don't know when. I just know I do." We stayed like that as the sun rose. Two broken people who'd found each other in the worst possible circumstances, deciding to believe in impossible things. A knock on the door interrupted. "Dante," Marco's voice, urgent. "We have a situation." Dante was up instantly, pulling on clothes with practiced efficiency. "What kind?" "Vitale wants to negotiate." He sent a message. "Wants to meet. Neutral ground." I sat up, wrapping the sheet around me. "That's a trap." "Obviously." Dante buckled his belt. "But it's also an opportunity. If he's willing to negotiate, maybe we can end this without more bloodshed. Or he kills you and takes us anyway. Which is why I go prepared." He pulled a gun from the nightstand I hadn't known contained weapons. "Marco, call everyone. Full security detail. If this is an ambush, I want overwhelming force ready." "Already done." Marco glanced at me. "Mrs. Moretti, you and Mira should stay in the secure room, just in case. Like hell. If Dante's walking into danger, You're staying here where you're safe." Dante's voice went hard, commanding. "This is not negotiable, Elena. You and Mira stay secured until I return." "Dante." He crossed to me, gripped my face. "I will come back. I promise. But I need to know you're safe while I do this. Please." The please destroyed my argument. "Fine, but if you die, I'm going to be extremely angry with you." "Noted." He kissed me once, hard and fast. "I love you. Remember that. I love you too. Don't make me regret it." He left with Marco, and I was alone in his childhood bedroom, wrapped in sheets that smelled like him, trying not to think about how many ways this could go catastrophically wrong. Chapter 10, Climax and Aftermath. The secure room was a bunker beneath the main house, steel reinforced. Provisions for 2 weeks, communication equipment monitoring every entrance. Marco had explained the security features with clinical precision before sealing us inside. Mira thought it was an adventure. Like a secret hideout, I thought it was a coffin. Beautifully appointed, but still a place designed for waiting while the world outside tried to kill you. 4 hours passed. No updates, no contact, just silence, and my imagination spiraling through every possible disaster scenario. Then the monitors flickered. Marco's face appeared. "Elena, we're initiating evacuation protocols." The meat went sideways. Dante's pinned down. Static consumed the feed. Everything in me went cold. "Marco? Marco." I slammed buttons trying to restore the connection. Nothing. "Mama, what's wrong?" Mira's voice was small. I forced calm I didn't feel. "Nothing, baby. Just technical problems. Stay here, okay? Mama needs to." The bunker door opened. Dante stumbled in, blood soaking through his shirt. Marco supporting him. "Jesus Christ." I lunged forward, catching Dante's other side. "I'm fine," he gasped. "Not fine. Very not fine. Flesh wound. You've been shot. Twice, technically." He grinned deliriously. "But I'm standing. That counts." We lowered him onto the steel bench. Marco was already pulling first aid supplies from cabinets. "What happened?" I demanded, hands shaking as I helped peel Dante's ruined shirt away. "Ambush. Vitale brought 30 men to a negotiation." Dante winced as Marco probed the wound. "We brought 40. Superior planning." "This is superior planning?" I gestured to the blood. "You're shot, but alive." Key distinction. Marco worked with quick efficiency, cleaning, packing, applying pressure. One bullet grazed ribs, other hit shoulder, through and through. He'll survive. "Will the Vitales?" I asked. Dante's eyes met mine. Something dark and satisfied flickered there. "No. Marco Vitale is dead. His sons surrendered. The war's over." The simple statement carried weight I couldn't quite process. Over. After everything, the restaurant shooting, the penthouse attack, 3 days of hiding, it was just over? "You killed him," I said quietly. I did. Put 3 rounds in his chest after he tried to execute me. No remorse. No regret. His family bent the knee. Agreed to terms. My territory stays mine. They retreat to their original borders. No more expansion attempts. No more bounties. No more hunting you. The relief nearly buckled my knees. We're safe? You're safe. He reached for my hand, gripped it despite Marco's protests about staying still. You and Mira both. The threats eliminated. Mira crept closer, rabbit clutched tight. Papa, you're bleeding. I am, Piccola. But I'm okay. Promise. Did you do violence again? Dante's jaw tightened. Yes. To keep our family safe. Okay. She considered this seriously. Mama says family is worth fighting for. Your mama is very wise. Marco finished bandaging, stepped back. You need proper medical attention. Hospital or no hospitals. Too many questions. Dante tried to sit up. Failed. Settled for propping himself against the wall. We have a doctor on retainer. Call him. To the compound. Already did. He's en route. Marco glanced between us. I'll give you privacy. But Dante? You got lucky today. Extremely lucky. I know. Next time. There won't be a next time. The Vitalas are finished. Everyone else falls in line or faces the same fate. His voice hardened. I'm done being reactive. Time to consolidate power and eliminate threats before they materialize. Marco nodded and left, sealing us in the bunker again. I stared at Dante, this man I'd married, who'd just walked out of a gunfight, who was bleeding on steel furniture while assuring his daughter he was fine. You promised you'd come back, I said quietly. I did come back. Barely. If those bullets had been 6 inches over. But they weren't. I'm here, Elena. Still breathing, still protecting you. At what cost? I gestured to his wounds. How long before your luck runs out? Before you don't come back? Is this the part where you leave? His voice went flat. Where you realize what you married into and decide it's too much? No, you idiot. This is the part where I'm angry that you're so cavalier about your life, that you think surviving is the same as living. I moved closer, careful of his injuries. You're a father now. My husband. You don't get to throw yourself into danger without considering what it would do to us if you died. I considered it. That's why I made sure I won. He cupped my face with his uninjured hand. Elena, I will always come back to you. Always. That's the promise. You can't promise that. Watch me. His eyes burned with certainty. I've survived 20 years in this life by being smarter, faster, more ruthless than my enemies. You think I'd let some third-rate mob boss take me down now? When I finally have something worth surviving for? You're impossible. I'm determined. There's a difference. Mira tugged on my shirt. Mama, is Papa going to be okay? I looked at her worried face, then at Dante's bloodied but stubborn expression, and made a decision. Yes, baby. Papa's going to be fine, because he promised. I held Dante's gaze. And Papas don't break promises. Never, Dante whispered. The doctor arrived within the hour, stitched Dante professionally while scolding him in Italian about his recklessness. Prescribed rest, antibiotics, no strenuous activity for 2 weeks. Dante ignored most of it. By evening, he was holding court from the compound's main living room. Various lieutenants reporting on the Vitali territory absorption, new allegiances, shifting power dynamics. Watching him work injured but undeterred, I understood why he'd survived this long. He was relentless. Later, after Mira was asleep and the compound had quieted, I found him on the terrace overlooking the forest. You should be resting, I said. I should be doing many things. Rarely happens. He didn't turn around. Are you staying? What? Now that the threat's gone, you could leave. Take Mira, disappear, build that quiet life you wanted. His voice remained carefully neutral. The marriage was for protection. The protection's no longer necessary. So, are you staying? The question hung in the cool night air. I moved beside him, took his hand, his uninjured one, and laced our fingers together. I love you, I said simply. That doesn't change because the danger did. So yes, you idiot, I'm staying. His shoulders relaxed minutely. Even though I'm a violent criminal who'll probably make your life infinitely complicated, especially because of that. I squeezed his hand. Besides, Mira would never forgive me if I took her away from her papa. Just Mira? Fine. I'd never forgive myself either. I leaned against him carefully, mindful of his injuries. You're stuck with us, Dante Moretti. For better or worse. Those were part of the vows, weren't they? His arm came around me. Till death do us part. Hopefully not anytime soon. Agreed. I've got plans. Oh, what plans? Teaching Mira to swim in the compound pool. Taking you to the restaurant where my parents had their first date. Maybe. He paused. Maybe having a family portrait painted. Something to hang in the hall with all the ghosts. The casual domesticity of it, this dangerous man planning swimming lessons and family photos made my chest tight. I'd like that, I whispered. Me too. He pressed a kiss to my temple. Thank you. For what? For not running. For seeing past the monster. For giving me a reason to come back. His voice went rough. For making me want to be the man Mira thinks I am. You already are that man. You just needed reminding. We stood there as stars emerged. Two people who'd found each other in blood and chaos, deciding that maybe, impossibly, we could build something good from such violent foundations. Dante, I said after a while. If you ever get shot again, I'm going to be extremely angry. Noted. I'll do my best to avoid it. See that you do. I'm rather fond of you alive. The feeling's mutual, Mrs. Moretti. Mrs. Moretti. 3 weeks ago, I was Elena Winters, single mother fleeing a bad marriage, trying to build something safe and ordinary. Now I was Elena Moretti, married to a mafia boss, living in a fortified compound, mother to a girl who called a killer Papa. It should have terrified me. Instead, it felt like home. Epilogue. 6 months later, I found Dante teaching Mira to read in Italian. They sat in the library, surrounded by his father's old books, Mira sounding out words while Dante corrected her pronunciation with infinite patience. Bellissima, he praised when she got it right. Perfect, Piccola. I'm going to speak Italian like Papa, she declared. Better than Papa, he corrected. Your accent will actually be accurate. I watched from the doorway, marveling at the transformation. This man, this dangerous, violent man, had become the father Mira deserved, careful and present, and absolutely devoted. He glanced up, caught me watching, smiled. Come join us, he invited. I crossed to them, settling on the couch beside my husband and daughter. Our family, unconventional and complicated, and built on the strangest of foundations, but ours, absolutely ours. And somehow, impossibly, we'd made it work.